The Rail is actually a story of Tommy Donovan, son of an Irish immigrant growing up through the hardships in the Bronx. Following his journey through addiction and struggles to heal from a painful childhood. Here now to tell us more about The Rail is author Tommy Donovan. Hello and welcome. I wish I would have gotten the book before we had this interview, but it's okay. I'm happy to receive your I guess, interpretation, being the author, even though
it's your gift.
Oh, this is, for me, awesome. This is great. I will say I did read a little bit about, I read the synopsis on it and a little bit of your bio, and it's really brave of you to put it in writing somewhere where it's documented. That is almost stripping yourself and sharing it with the world. So just share a little bit about that.
The process I went through was really one of trying to write a love story about the neighborhood I grew up in. This special Bronx neighborhood that was founded on cooperation and democracy and good housing for garment workers coming out of the East Side.
Okay, so what year are we talking about? Because
this is way back in the 20s.
Right. Wow.
So I plopped down there in the 50s
Right.
from an Irish neighborhood in Washington Heights. My parents are divorced, and I'm in that neighborhood, and I have to navigate all the Jewish holidays. I mean, I go to school on Rosh Hashanah, nobody's there,
Right.
except me.
Right. That's interesting, right?
And then
Did you feel displaced?
I did. I felt very alienated and I felt like an outsider. But I was also in a community of outsiders because the Jewish community had just suffered World War II and the Holocaust.
Right.
And then on top of all this, by the time I'm 14 and 15, the 60s are exploding, right? The Beatles come to America, the Vietnam War is going on, civil rights is exploding, women's rights. So I'm trying to capture all this alchemy and all these threads that are informing the world at that time by telling my personal story through all of that. So that's what I'm trying to capture in there.
Well, so it's a time capsule.
That's a great description, actually. It is a time capsule. And I'm hoping that not only people my age will read it and have memories, but younger people will read it too and see some hope there. Because I went from drug addiction to now I have a PhD in psychology and I teach at a university. So the possibilities, even out of the darkest moments, to do something different. But I also have to say, and I have to again pay homage to my community, I couldn't have done any of this without the support of many angels and allies in that neighborhood.
So he keeps referencing this book, and what I'm getting, right, just in your reference, is that this is a really huge part of who you are.
Correct.
Now, you just kind of laid it out. You're like, oh, I have a PhD, I'm a professor, and yet you could still be honest and say, I went through all these hardships. It's a story about humanity. It's a story from your perspective. And so just with everything that's going on, I just want to dive a little further into it and just comparing the years that we live in this day and age versus the day and age that this story is referencing. How do you feel that we are a lot more segregated now? Even having felt like an outcast. And I think I'm really referencing love more than anything because there's this sense of embracement that still exists, but I just feel like the news doesn't really capture that.
No, it doesn't. It seems like the news captures divisiveness.
Yes.
And that maybe is their bread and butter. And thank goodness for places like BronxNet that doesn't do that.
Thank you.
No, really.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
But, you know, I think we're really trying as a human species. You know, when I was growing up, what did I see on TV? I saw hoses and police dogs on black people in the South. You know, people being beaten, people being assassinated. And we still have some of that, and yet we continue to try to reach for the sun of our humanity in these various different ways. Like your earlier guest, Victor, said, after Orlando, maybe some hearts were opened, you know? And I don't know if that's something that has to do with us as humans. Do we have to have tragedy before we open our hearts? I hope not. Maybe we can open our hearts more spontaneously, just...
How about willingly?
Willing.
How about willingly?
Yes,
How about just
willingly.
because?
especially because we're humans and we have a mutual respect for each other.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes. And so I'm sharing this because, we've gone on a little bit of a roller coaster ride today, right?
We
Here
have.
on the show. And then your story loans itself to being a roller coaster ride that is based in the Bronx, which is beautiful because you're highlighting the place that kind of made you in a sense.
Right.
And it was different than what it is now, but yet it's still your home.
Correct.
Or your origins. Right. And having come from a mixed upbringing, at this day and age, you would think that we've moved on from that. And so I just wonder, like in reading your book, would it loan itself to moving us past that?
It might, and I've pondered this actually because I wonder what the difference is. Sometimes, for me, what really opened my heart was the struggle for social justice. Ultimately, there was some place where I could find meaning in my life. There was no meaning in heroin. There was no meaning in drinking. And I wonder today, and I teach at a college, I wonder where is the meaning? Where is the larger meaning to compel people to a different vision of who they could be and who they are? And I think that's a missing piece. The meaning, if it's there, it seems to be fragmented, or it's isolated over here and these people don't know about it. I mean, one of the great things about the 60s was everything was in upheaval. Everything was open to question. Nobody was afraid to question.
Right.
And I don't think we haven't rediscovered that yet.
Yeah, I'm a Four Agreements fan.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite books of all times, and the domestication in which that's being exercised right now is really, really, really scary. It's really, really, and I mean domestication just from the actual implications that are being made, or just even the sensationalizing that's going on through the media, because we tend to pay attention to that, and then now we have this other platform, the social media platform, which now you have access to like millions of points of views, right. and just the way we're communicating is kind of like, it's nice to have just the old-fashioned way of coming to your own conclusion, really is what I'm getting at in this whole conversation.
I think domestication's a great word, right? We're being tamed and we're being distracted in ways that are unhelpful and not good for our spirit, not good for our hearts, and the word you used earlier, not good for love and our humanity.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight, and thank you for writing this wonderful book that I'm really looking forward to reading. I love the fact that there's you come from an authentic place of being truthful.
Okay.
Me personally, I acknowledge that, and so I'm really looking forward to reading this. And where can people find it?
www.the-rail.net, my website. Yeah. And I'm going to be speaking in Vladeck Hall, 74 Van Cortlandt Park South on Sunday at 5. I'm going back to the old neighborhood to do a book reading and a book signing, so everybody's welcome.
Oh, nice. And that information's on your website as well?
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Tommy.
My pleasure.
Tommy Donovan, he's Dr. Tom is really what
Enjoy the book, Rhina.
Yeah, wait, don't go anywhere. Not just yet, not just yet. Plus, you got to sign my book.
I did.
All right. Once again, for more information on Tommy Donovan and his book, The Rail, go to therail.net.